My wife really wants a sauna, so I got to cut some of this cedar up into boards. Let's make her a sauna. So we have all these cedar butts that was left behind a couple years ago when they logged. And I think what happened is they took a bunch of poles off, cedar poles, and a lot of these have a bunch of butt swell on them. Some of them have a little bit of rot in the end. So I can get a lot of really good wood out of here that the old loggers left. I need to pull these out with my skidder, get them to the landing, and we'll take a look at what we got and kind of make a plan on them. You know, they look gross. They've been laying in the woods a couple years, but that red cedar, you know, it resists the bugs, it resists the rot and the mold and all the fungus. So here's the end, and there's just a little rind of sapwood on it, and you can see it's kind of getting all wormy and rotten. But the log on both sides is real sound. So as soon as we get in past that sapwood, it's going to be real nice, beautiful cedar. And you can see on the trunk here, there's no limbs, there's no knots, it should be really, really nice clear wood once we get into it. Now I just learned something here, and right now the sheriff is on his way. And I learned this today. I don't know why I didn't know this or where you're supposed to learn this, but to haul cedar in Washington State, you need a cedar hauling permit. And apparently it's because all the cedar rats and people have been stealing cedar and cutting down cedar and poaching cedar. So I called the sheriff's department. They're going to send a deputy out to make sure I have cedar, and then they're going to issue me a permit so I can legally haul it in the state. I got to take it from Skagit County back up to Whatcom County, get it loaded on the trailer, and we'll get up to the mill. All right, guys, well, I got it bucked down to 12 feet. It was a little exciting there when I stepped on it and tipped the whole thing over, but now I've got my sawmill guy is going to be mad if I bring him this because it won't fit in his saw. So what I got to do is I got to try and split it all the way up the log here. Well, Fred's probably not going to be wild about my logs. I've got some butt rot in them. I've got some knotty stuff. We'll get him out here, see what he thinks. The butt of their log. It's got a big old nasty knot there, a little bit of butt rot. We'll see if Fred can fix it. What do you think, Fred?
Seen better days.
A lot of good wood in there though, right?
Well, we'll find out.
Can you fix it?
Oh yeah, there's a burn pile right over there.
Well, Fred's agreed to try and quarter saw this thing. So we're gonna kind of true it up a little bit. We're gonna cut it into quarters, and then we're gonna flip-flop the cants back and forth so we can always have the grain perpendicular to the blade as we're cutting. I think that's some of the most beautiful cedar I've ever cut. Don't you think, Fred? Pretty nice. You gotta admit, it's pretty nice stuff.
You don't know what I want to think.
Yeah, that was good stuff, right? That was good stuff. Fred says that's good stuff. Fred's got our big log here, chopped into quarters. We ended up getting 4 12x12s out of it. And the rings are pretty far apart. There may be 3, 4, 5 rings per inch. But that's okay. We'll get some nice wood out of it. And there we go. Turned them into nice boards.
How many thousand feet?
1,000?
500?
500 was my guess. What do you think?
500?
500? In that one log?
Yeah.
Pretty good?
For a free log.
Yeah. It's
Somebody
not.
left it behind.
They did. It's not as good as I hoped it would be. There's a lot more knots than I thought there would be in there. And they're kind of soft. But we'll get enough wood out of there for a sauna, that's for sure. Now we're going to rip them down into 6-inch wide pieces. All right, now we're going to use this big old resaw here to cut our boards down to size. So that's a single line rip saw from 1959. And in this video, I'm being the tail boy. And there's double ones too, right? There's double edgers?
And triple and quads.
Okay. And there you go. Beautiful pile of boards. Took us 15 minutes. Here comes our boards. Now we got to get them all home and stickered, start drying. Well, this is about half of what I got. I hope it's enough to build a sauna with. But it smells so good. For better or worse, this was under 400 bucks from Harbor Freight. It's, I think, a DeWalt copy. Got it out of the box. This is what we've got here. Well, here's kind of the finished product. I've got them in a couple different categories here. I've got, my wife needs to make her decision. So I've got some wide boards here for the sauna. But the other thing we talked about is ripping them down into like 2-inch, 2.5-inch boards, tongue and groove on each side, putting a little relief on the corner. And then when they match up, you get a really cool 2.5, 2-inch face. So I'm gonna take these home and she can make her decision on what she wants. But man, this cedar is just the coolest thing. It turns out so nice. It's a nice soft wood, smells amazing, and it's gonna make a beautiful sauna for us. Well, the final decision has been made. We are going to keep the wide boards, and now I've got to plane them all. It was fun for the first 100 boards, but with this small planer, I can only take off about a 1/16 of an inch max, more like a 32nd at a time, especially on the wider boards. So I ran these boards multiple times, and I had probably 100 to 150 boards. So it took me a long time to run this planer. But it did pretty good. I got a good finish out of it. It did what it was supposed to do. Now that I have all my boards planed, I'm going to run through this little joiner. This is another Harbor Freight special. It's about 250 bucks. Works really well, actually. I wish the table was a lot longer. It's really hard to run an 8-foot, 10-foot piece through this little joiner and keep it flush mounted down onto the cutter. But the whole point of the joiner is to take a wavy edge from the rough cut sawmill and turn it into a nice, uniform, straight edge so that when we run it through the tongue and groove router table, we have a nice straight cut on our tongue and groove. Because when you're sitting in your sauna and you see all those lines running up and down, the human eye can pick out a 32nd or a 16th of an inch variation in that groove, and it just looks sloppy. So we got to get one edge really nice and straight, and then we're going to run it through the table saw. And once we have one edge really nice and straight, then we can run it through a table saw and true up the other edge so we have two nice straight parallel edges. One of the things that I think I kind of made a mistake on is every one of my boards is a different width, and so every time I run it through the table saw, I have to adjust the fence, which made it a lot more time consuming than if I had them all at 4-inch or all at 6-inch wide. Having a wider board, you waste less material, but you take a lot longer and a lot more man hours to get the final product. All right, now we're going to move on to the tongue and groove stage. And I'm all worked up about this because my boards are 1-inch thick, and I've got a 1-inch thick tongue and groove router bit. But see how I've got a valley there? What I'm used to is the V-notch coming right up flush with the face. But with these 1-inch thick boards, I've got the V, and then I've got a 1/4 or 3/16 little shelf right there. And it makes the boards very pronounced, like when you're looking at them from the side. And I've asked my wife, and she's okay with it. And it's just, I guess it's going to be fine. It's going to be the walls and the ceiling. And it's just, I guess it's just a look that we're going to have to get over. But it's one of those things where it wasn't what I planned when I started. It wasn't the picture I had in my head. And so now I'm dealing with that. This is more of what I had. This is some store-bought stuff, but see, if you look down, that little V-notch comes right up to the flush with the face. You don't have that big gully like I've got in these ones. It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be beautiful. It's gonna be great. Look at how pretty that cedar is. Gorgeous stuff. Oh, I've just got our router bit changed. We're gonna start doing the tongue now. So now we're gonna cut the top and bottom of the board, and the tongue is gonna be in the middle. I've clamped this fence, I guess, across the top of the board. And what that does is it makes it so my boards don't lift off the table. Kind of keeps them, I'm just a 64th off the top of the board there. And so if I got a little warped board, a little one that's bent or anything like that, that fence keeps it nice and straight, so you get a nice uniform groove all the way across. That's saved me a couple times now. And then here I'll get you a shot in the sauna here. Here's going to be where the magic's going to happen. It's about 5 foot wide by 9 feet long, and it's about almost 6 feet tall. I got to stoop a little bit to stand in here. We got some furring strips across we're gonna nail to. I've got our first board here. I wanted to check we've got the right height, so the board might be a little bit bent. See, this one's a little bit lower, just a hair. It's okay, I'm fine with that. There, it's about flat again. So we got good uniform height on our tongue and groove, and it's pretty darn tight there as well. Once we get it up in the wall and tacked in, we can tap them together. So I'm happy with that. I got to run that whole pile now. Looking nice.
He's gonna be YouTubing this here.
This is going on YouTube. That's right.
He'll be. Sorry, I better.
No, you're fine. I love it. I like the banter. I like the chatter. But it's looking nice, huh, John?
It's just gonna be a beautiful thing.
A beautiful thing.
It will be. I'll guarantee it.
Well, here's a little sauna update. We got that whole wall done, and I'm really happy with it. It looks great. And then around in the corner, we got that wall done. We're keeping our little access hole there for a little while while we frame our benches in and stuff. And we got some of this wall done, working around. We're going to work on the door this weekend. Try and get a door in there, fur door. So it's coming along. All right, next step. I'm going to make a bunch of little 1 7/8 inch slats for the seats and the face on the seat. And I took all this short wood, I got some knots that I'm going to cut around. I'm going to take essentially all my waste wood, quote unquote, and get some nice clear cedar slats out of it. I've got a 1 7/8 inch strips here on the bottom. I've got some trim that is 1 inch and some trim that's 1.5 inches. I don't know if I'm going to use that or how I'm going to use that in the sauna, but anything under 1 7/8 inches, I just trim down. And the reason why I cut it 1 7/8 instead of 2 inch is if I had any that were a true 4 or a true 6, then the saw kerf is taken into account. And so I didn't waste a whole bunch on the edge of the board. So that's why I did 1 7/8. Do another quick sauna update here. Got our custom fur door we built. And we are getting ready for benches. So to get you kind of oriented here, we've got vents. We got a lower vent here, a little pedestal for our heater, a little tile pedestal. We've got trim around the door. We've got our lights in, and we're going to put them on a dimmer as well so you can dim the light. And then we've got an upper vent here. Well, progress is coming along. We've got our benches framed in here. So now I'm going to go cut those slats 24.5 inches to go on the face of these benches. It's going to wrap all the way around here and around here where we're going to have our heater. We got our stack of slats here. I am painfully aware of how inefficient this is. I'm working down on my knees. I'm out of room. I really want to get it up on the bench, but I got all my slats on the bench. So we're just going to whack up about 60 of these slats for the face of the benches. And I'm working on this little detail here that's a real pain. I'm rounding this corner right here on the edge. So when you sit down, you won't have that nice sharp 90-degree digging into your butt. And it's a real little tiny detail here. I think it's going to make a big difference. But I've got to do like 60 or 80 of these slats. And I just run it through this little teeny tiny bit and just take a little bit of a radius there. So it's a lot of monotonous work, but that way you won't have all those sharp lines in your butt. And here's where we're at. Got our benches faced, and I've got, these are just kind of sitting here. They're just kind of laid out, but we got our benches coming along. I'm really excited. My wife is really excited. We're coming up on our final day here at the sauna. We got our benches in. We're going to be working on the floor today, but everything's coming together. Last week we got our heater figured out. Put some rocks in there. Get that thing all going. So now I'm going to be cutting a bunch of slats for the floor, and we're going to make it into 2 sections here so we can take those out and clean it. But we'll do one under the door, pull it out, one over there, pull it out so we can hose it down and keep it clean so you don't have a bunch of stuff growing. And then over here, I was gonna wait till the end, but I'm too excited. I'll show you now. What we did, we put some hinges on the back, and we got a cold plunge in there. We're gonna have a cold plunge right inside of the sauna, so you can get hot, plop right in the cold water there, close it back, and sit back in the sauna. So we'll see how that goes. We got the floor in. The sauna is complete. The sauna is done, guys. Let me give you the final tour here. We got the heater over here. My wife's got it all primped out. We got our little thermometer. The fur door turned out really nice. The lights, the vents, and then this guy here. This is really cool. This cold plunge, it stays cool even when the sauna's on, and you can stay in the sauna, in the hot sauna, and plop right in the cold plunge. So my wife and I have been using it for the last couple of weeks. It's really, really great. We love it. I would highly encourage everybody to build a sauna. The smell is amazing. You feel so much better after you get in and you cool off, you do your cold plunge thing. It's great. So thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.